There we go.
Very good. Well, hello and thank you to Julia. Let's see, I got it. There we go. And what a joy to be with you tonight. My name is Missy Shipman, and I'm a demonstrator with a company called Stampin', which is based in Utah. I've been a paper crafter for many years and a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for 23 years, almost 24. And one of my favorite things that I get to do each month is meet with you in person on a Friday morning. Tomorrow morning it will be for this month. And also since the pandemic, we pivoted and made an online option. And we, Julia and I have really enjoyed gathering with you each month, live on Zoom and live stream to Facebook, as well as the recording being provided with Facebook and with YouTube, the Baldwinsville Public Library YouTube channel. So if you're interested, you can go back several months and see all kinds of different crafting projects that we've done together the second Thursday of each month for a long time. So thanks, Julia, for your tech support and your encouragement and your putting together the consumable part, the non-consumable parts of the kit each month so that people can have some ink and stamps to play with as we explore different techniques and layouts. Tonight, we'll be making 3 cards. Each one features a different kind of fold, and hopefully you'll love the bold colors, the brightness in this dark, rainy time as we look forward to spring coming. So we're going to start with a Valentine card, which can be a friendship card. Valentines aren't just for partners, they can be for special friends and family members. And this card, I love. It has a special fold. I'll tell you about this. And the greeting, I think, is especially kind and appropriate for the status of our world these days. Kindness changes the world one heart at a time. So you'll see this is kind of a special accordion fold. Going to show you a couple other samples. While you gather your bag, you'll want to take out the supplies from your bag, find the one that has that pink cardstock sticking up out of the envelope, and you'll pull. That's what we're going to need to work with. It has your ribbon and your die cut pieces ready. And as we get started, I'll just show you a couple other samples that some friends made for me, showing this cool fold. This one was made by my friend Val. And I love how it just opens up and there's all those sweet cherries. Life is sweet with you in it, friend. And that's a really fun one. So here's another example of a landscape orientation with this special fold. And then this one was made by my friend Ellen. And I love that this one is a portrait orientation. And it kind of grows and you stretch it out this way. And that uses some of the owls that we had fun with last month, coloring our watercolor adorable owls. So this, I've already done the scoring for you so that we're ready to put the card parts together tonight. And let me get those pieces out. This is lovely designer series paper, and it says, I love you in several languages. Now, remember, when you work with designer series paper, you have the chance to flip or flop. You can choose to have the different patterns showing on your card based on your interests. I love the bold candy, the sweet hearts and wrapped candies in this design. So I chose to have that be the focal point of the front of my card. And then the more muted words to go in the second little channel here. And then we have a piece of the basic white cardstock that we can use for the end of the card where you can do your own personalized greeting. So if you open up your card all the way, there's one edge. Let me see if that's correct here. Yeah, we're going to fold on all of the score lines, and I kind of have to fold them first and then kind of position them the way that they're supposed to go after I have a chance to fold and play with them. Yours might come out a little differently based on how the scoring worked.
Can you remind me the thing about the dimple and the pimple?
Oh yeah. Now that won't work as in this time because all of the scores were made when I was in one direction with my tool.
Okay.
I did it And so these, but that's a great thing, and will remind me on the other card I can share with you. Basically, the funny rhyme that my friend taught me is Megan taught me is you want to hide the dimple, or I'm sorry, hide the pimple, show the dimple. And so when a card piece is folded, there is sorry, when it's scored, let me find another example to show you here. So that I haven't already folded. Okay, I'll pull out another pink one to show you. So here, this is like the dimple. See how it's debossed? There's a, I use the scoring tool and it pushed down here. So the opposite side of that is debossed. It's coming up, and that is like what we call the pimple. And that's just to remind us that that part that's raised is the part that we fold. And then the paper is the happiest that way. It's just we've already made a nice groove in the paper fibers here. And so the paper is very happy to fold that way. Whereas if we try to fold against that, the paper can tend to pile up inside here or split across the other side. Now, this is high quality cardstock, so you don't have a lot of issues with that. But so in this case, we're kind of making it like an accordion. Okay, and I'm just going to check to see if I scored them all the same way. I did not. So I'm going to, yours might be scored differently, and that means your paper might not fit exactly the same, but I don't want you to worry. It might have been just that one that I had a little bit off. What I want you to do is find the piece that is a little bit shorter, the end that's a little bit shorter. You've got like a panel, a short panel, a middle panel, a short panel, and then another end panel. So where this white paper is we want to put that at the end. So you'll see if I put it here, there's a lot of extra space around, too much extra space. This place, I've scored it just so that there's a nice pink border around it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just adhere that in and kind of give me an anchor for the front and the back of my card. Now, if your score lines are different, it's possible that I goofed on the measuring, and I do apologize, but your card will still fold together into the envelope. The pieces might not just balance the same way on my sample. And it could be that I just goofed on that one kit. All right, so now you'll see it's kind of like a waterfall here. We've got some Z's or W's, mountain folds here to make that movement in our card. Now, as I said, I love the bright candy piece, but as we go along and as you follow the video or make your choices, you can choose to use whichever sides of the paper that you like. This back side of this paper is a nice watercolory muted piece. And if you wanted to do some stamping right directly on that paper, that would be smart to use that side because it wouldn't compete with the boldness of this design. Now, before I attach this one to the front of my card, I'm going to tie a knot with this purple ribbon around it first. This ribbon color is actually called Gorgeous Grape. Isn't it yummy? And so I'm going to have it, it's just a little bit under halfway here, a little bit to the bottom. And that's just so that when I line up my circle, it will kind of look like the ribbon is knotted near that circle. So I'm just doing a little overhand knot, left over right, right over left, like a square knot from Girl Scouts, and pulling that tightly, okay? So that it's just wrapped around the square Gorgeous Grape piece. And then I can use my paper snips to trim off any little, if it just feels a little bit too long for me, I can trim those. It's always nice too, if you tie ribbon, it can kind of fray a little bit. So when you want to finalize your project, you can just trim the edges to make them a little bit more clean. Now you'll see that this paper is not going to glue all the way down there. I don't want to put any glue on this part because I want the card mechanism to be able to move. So that means I only want to put glue on this first panel. And I'm going to do that, leaving a nice border around it because some of the pink is going to show around the outside here. And then I'll put that in place. And you'll notice it's going to have a banner about 1/4 inch all the way around that square. So it's framing the piece. All right. So next we'll add that center panel. And I will post tomorrow in the comments of the Facebook post. I will add the dimensions if you want to recreate this fold with your own supplies. It's a simple fold with some simple scoring. But again, you know how fun it is to be a paper engineer, both when you're creating a card and when you're receiving a card. It's fun to have some interaction. And the way this has this waterfall kind of accordion fold, it's just a very engaging card, both when it's being opened and when it's displayed. If you have any questions, be sure to let Julia know in the chat, or you can go off mute and ask us any questions. As I said, I'm doing my technology a little bit different tonight, so I can't see you, and I apologize for that, but I hope that you can see my hands and hear me okay. So if you have any questions, let me know. There. So see how it's coming together. I was careful not to have any glue go over the edge here. I want it to be able to move. And then this is kind of almost like a lock here, or a little hinge, because what I'm going to do is secure, once I stamp and decorate this medallion, I'm going to position it on that middle fold so that this front one tucks underneath. And that way, when it opens up from the card, it's a little bit closed up. It's still going to have some spring to it because of the score lines, but it's a little bit like a lock, and then it opens and opens again. So the stamp set I'm featuring for this card is called Begin with a Dream. And this is a stamp set that's available as a host reward gift. And I love the greetings. Kindness changes the world one heart at a time. Every great dream begins with a dreamer, and you make a difference. So these are wonderful, not just at Valentine's Day times, they're great for all year round. And again, I think that Valentines are really for all year round, not just for February 14th, to share our love and appreciation for our friends and family, a random act of kindness for people at the grocery store or the bank. It's a good idea to send happy mail, pass out some happy mail. So we're going to stamp that. Kindness changes the world one heart at a time. And this is a cling stamp. So it's not clear like the photopolymer, and we'll use that a little bit later. The cling one has this nice red rubber, traditional red rubber ink there. And we're using that gorgeous grape. So now I'll take this and you notice I pushed a little too hard there. And some of the ink had picked up onto the stamp. So that's just something that comes with practice and patience. I've been, like I said, doing this for a long time, but sometimes I'm impatient, and it is important that you are careful with the right pressure so that you don't get the oops. But I'm not offended by little pieces like this. In fact, I can add some sequins and kind of, or I could do sponging, but I think what we'll do is we'll add some sequins like I did on my original sample once we put that together. Okay, so we're using some dimensionals. Now the dimensionals should be in your kit along with the long envelope, the green.
I finally remembered it, what Bob Ross says, there are no accidents, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents.
Exactly. Happy accidents, opportunities for sure. Opportunities for layering and embellishing, right? We can just keep playing. So, and it's only paper and ink. And when we have a little goof on there, a fingerprint, or it just really shows that it was handmade from the heart and with much love. So you have some dimensionals, and in this little envelope, this tall envelope, there are some gems. So we'll be using them for the other project too, but there are enough if you would like to add them, take them out and be able to add them to your pink card tonight as well. So I'm going to use these purple. There's a wonderful range of, these were originally called peacock sequins because they're like all the colors of a peacock feathers. And so I'm going to take these pinky and purpley ones to go with the colors here and just add them kind of over those spots, not worrying too much about that, just adding texture. And so there's going to be a little bit of sparkle on this card. These I can set aside and save for, or I can put them, smart thing to do would be to put them back in my green envelopes so that I have them for our other project. Okay, so moving along, what I'm going to do is this, remember, is kind of like a little lock. And so what I have to do is have adhesive only on this part of the circle, because underneath I'm going to be sliding this front panel. So I can put a few dimensionals just along that side of the medallion. And because I'm using the dimensionals so that it has a little lift and the front panel can slide underneath this way. There we are. So we'll test that out, see how it can go in and kind of lock and then be pulled out for display. And then you'll see the last thing we can add is in your envelope, there should also be a punched heart in that gorgeous grape color. So you can keep it just like this. Sometimes when I was younger, I would play with paper hearts, and I'm going to fold this in half. And it sometimes, depending on the fibers of the paper, it's happy to fold, and other times it's not so much. But I just want to show you a quick trick so you can kind of spread out this design a little bit. If you cut, keep that fold there. And then when you open it up, you'll have a little, looks like one of those cookies that has the jam inside, right? A shortbread cookie. And that way you've got two hearts now. You can put one on the front of your card if you like, or you can have them both in here. This would be fun too. If it's for my friend Megan, I could put two Megan inside here. Or if it's for a partner that you love, you could put your initials. My husband's name is Bill, so it should say MS plus BS or something, like you'd put it, carve it in a tree. So that just gives it a little more interest than a full solid heart like I had in my original one. It's up to you. It's always great to have options, right? And to personalize your projects for whoever will be receiving them. There, do it like that. Okay. And this little one, I'm going to put at the front. I'm going to pop it up with the dimensionals. And along the edges of your dimensionals, you have sort of half dimensionals, and that's a great size for smaller pieces like this. Okay, I'll take those, remove the wax backing, remember, and then that can go near here, maybe just under that ribbon. So now the card has some fun pop-up dimension along with the candies, all the happy colors, and it opens like this. I think this is a really fun one when it's in the envelope because it's kind of a pop-up surprise. It wants to move when you open it up. So we're going to add a little interest to our envelope using the heart stamp from that stamp set. And I'm going to do one in pink and then one in the purple. So it'll pick up both of those happy colors. I'm going to start with my lighter color. And we like to say that no naked envelopes. You want to have your envelopes have design and decoration as well. Kind of a little sneak peek of what will be inside your envelope.
Right,
so again, go ahead.
I just wanted to remind people that the stamps you have in your kit will be different. The
Yes.
ones you're showing are the ones that will be used tomorrow at the
At our Friday Let's Kit Together. That's right. Yep. So it's fun. We'll be having this stamp set will be available for you to use. We have several kit choices for tomorrow. And then in addition, you get to have bonus Valentines. In addition to your kits, I'll have all the supplies for you to create 2 Valentines just as a bonus. So it's fun when you have a stamp set with different verses, different sentiments. It gives you a lot of versatility and hope that you'll enjoy that. So I'd love to see you tomorrow. The supply fee tomorrow is $20 to purchase a full kit. If you have a kits collection or a paper pumpkin kit at home, you're welcome to bring it. Let's kit together, bring it from home and we can work on it together. The more the merrier. It's fun to gather. But as I said, the $20 supply fee will include a full kit that has stamps, all the supplies to make the card projects, ink, the block, all the things you need. So you'll create your project and then go home with some more supplies. So here's our first one tonight. I hope you've enjoyed that, the boldness of these colors. And again, it's a little bit of a non-traditional Valentine. It's meant to be for anyone that you're sharing some sunshine with during these rainy days. Super. So next we're going to work with the supplies in this large, tall green envelope. This is called a slimline stamp or card. Lee, I see your question about the stamp. So let me tell you, it is the Begin with a Dream stamp set is the stamp set that we used on that first Valentine card. Begin with a Dream. So this is called a slimline card because it fits in a standard business size envelope. I happen to have found these wonderful parakeet party color, green color envelopes that coordinate so nicely with our papers. This is a blue cardstock piece that has, again, that fold line scored, and I'm kind of going against my rule today because when I scored them, I scored it without turning the paper over. So I'm actually going to fold this one back, even though the rule would teach us to fold it in. And that's going to give us a engaging fold again to give some dimension. It's going to kind of pop forward. So let me show you two completed samples of this, and that will give you some options for how you want to assemble yours. This is one that features the adorable owls that we used last month. And I love, love, love the joy in these little faces and what fun it is to watercolor them or to use Stampin' blends or pencils or watercolor markers. Last month in your kit, you received a watercolor brush. And although we're not using that tonight, it is a tool that we'll use throughout our exploration, crafting together. So hopefully you'll keep that in your kit. I also mentioned last month a brayer. And so I have one to show you tonight, and we're actually going to use this next month with a stencil. But if you don't have, the stencil will be in your kit. But if you don't have a brayer, you can use a sponge, like a Stampin' sponge that's it's a round that's cut into little triangles. Even a kitchen sponge would work. Cotton balls, Q-tips. If you have a spritzer, you could use that, or your watercolor brush. But we'll share some fun ways to use a stencil. And last month I had mentioned a brayer and wanted to be able to show you what that is. It's a tool used with printmaking, and we'll be using it next month. All right, so here's the owl. And you'll notice these triangles are set on a diamond pattern, on a diagonal pattern. This one is one that has the papers we'll be using tonight that are in your kit. All of these papers are from a host reward product currently available from Stampin' Up. And it's just such an eclectic mix of patterns, geometric and floral patterns. It's a lot of fun. So this one is sort of the sample we're going to work with tonight. But one of these things is not like the other, right? You can see the difference between the squares that are set at right angle here and the squares that are set on the diagonal. And you can be the creative master of your supplies. I want to remind you, you can also anytime gather things from your own stash, grab a magazine and cut up little pieces to put onto your project. If the stamps that you've borrowed or that you have in your collection don't seem quite right, you can always draw or trace, or, come up with different ways to get images. And so these are two examples. I'll be working the one that has the square tonight, but keep in mind, if you want to put yours on the diagonal, that's also a choice. All right, and I'll keep that kind of at the side so we can see what we're doing. So now we've got our teal color, blue color paper, and inside the green envelope are all kinds of pieces, lots of little pieces. And remember, we tucked those diamond peacock embossed, or what are they called? Embellishments, rhinestone embellishments, which are really lovely. And you'll see I added those on my little bird card here. And they are self-adhesive, so they're really easy to work with. Okay, now there are choices here that you'll need to make as you assemble your card. There are 3 squares and they're double-sided. So you can pick and choose which pieces you want to have showing. This is actually the same, cut from the same piece of paper. So it has the floral botanic kind of greeting on the mustard color, and then the stripes. So I chose to have one of each. There are those. And then there are extra pieces. There are 4, and you're only going to use 3 on the project. So you can decide which 3 you'd like to have be on your main images, main panels of your card. This one here actually is covered up a little bit by the white, so it looks smaller, but that's actually the same size as my floral piece here. And there are no rules. There's no right or wrong. It's really just what one's called to you. And remember, they have two sides also. So you have even more choices. Don't feel rushed as we're stamping together tonight, as we're sharing this evening. You do not have to complete your projects at the same pace that I am stamping. I love to just share as much as I can in the hour that we have together. So I do work quite quickly. Know that when you're watching the replay on YouTube or Facebook, you can pause and rewind and replay and fast forward, and that's really helpful. And then there's one long thin strip, and that one you can choose, the front or the back. There's a little less choices for that one, but I'm going to start by adhering that one with my Tombow glue onto the card base. So again, we call this a slimline card because it is a thinner, taller card. You can use the same kind of layout though with any size card. I love that this fits in a standard business envelope. If you have to send a check to someone or a bill, this is kind of a fun way to dress it up, right? Now I'm going to make mine different from my original here, just so I can show you some of the variety. All right, this color is so pretty. What's fun is that all these papers came from the same pack of designer series paper, so there's a lot of variety to them. If you love these blue tones, then that would make sense. Something like this that would have a lot of the blue. This green, this parakeet party color, is the color of your envelope. So I do encourage you having some pieces that are going to pull out that color, which means I may want to add these stripes here. I think I will. And that's going to give a strong pop of that bright parakeet party color. And so let's do that next. Now, as I do this kind of project, I approach it kind of like a puzzle, and I'm just putting things together as I go along. Other people might choose to do all of the stamping and design work first and then assemble. I just know that I can't do it wrong. I want all these colors to be really an eclectic mix. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in there. I do love the flowers. It's always a shame to cover up one side of the paper, but I did make it show on my other cards. So this one, I'm going to use this wavy blue. It's just kind of a peaceful pattern, I think. And then it contrasts with that bright and happy parakeet party color. Okay, now another design choice would be, some people would put, I've seen these cards where you use dimensionals to fold down the front of your card. The reason I like to leave it open is that when it's standing, then it's got some more of that accordion magic pullout card like the first one. I just enjoy that kind of an energy or movement in my card, and I would limit that if I secured this. But again, it's your design, your own taste. If you wanted it to be more of a standard open and close card, you would put some dimensionals or glue behind here. Now there's one more piece of designer series paper for me to select, and I'm going to go with this one that has some of that fresh freesia. Again, I use this multicolor stripe on my first card. Here we are. This one kind of has an up and a down based on the flowers. They seem to be flowers more at the top and leaves at the bottom, but you can orient it the way that you like. And then my white piece, I'm going to put here, and that way I have a place to do some writing or embellishing and stamping there. Okay. So we'll put that down, and you'll notice on all the way around, I've got this neat 1/4 inch kind of border or frame there. So the base of our card is ready, and we can decide how we want to embellish the 3 squares. This piece is also available to me, so I could cut out flowers from here and add them. We might do that along with the bird tonight. Okay, so I've got 3 squares and 3 pieces of the designer series paper. And even though these colors aren't all in the paper, I think they complement each other so well. They're bright and cheerful. This one will do that stripey. like this. And then this one, that darker green. Let's see, I want to be on camera for you. There we are. All right, so we have these three. Now, again, you can choose to do it as a diagonal pattern or a square pattern. It's totally up to you. And when we secure them to the base, though, we don't want the glue to come over the edges. We just want it to be in that middle. Now, my card, I put my squares a little more to the left. So you'll see that more of this blue shows and a little bit of this side. It's up to you. You could put them in any direction that you like here. I'm going to put them so that that middle part is covered with the glue and that it's a little more oriented, a little more to the left. Now, one trick, without having to measure, if you want these three to be quite even, you would do the top and then the bottom and then put the middle in there. So mine are going to be a little more to the center than to the, let's see, I want this distance and this distance I'm eyeballing to be similar. And then that way, when I center this, there'll be a little bit here and a little bit here. Can put those going vertically or horizontally.
That's a good tip, to do the top and bottom before you do the middle, but you want to at
Yes.
least lay them all out so you can see what
Yes.
it's going to look like.
Exactly. And it does, because we have this boing, this spring action, because the folding, it's a little bit tricky. So a good thing to do is just either fold it all the way flat like this to lay them out, or just alongside. Julia, that's a great thing to note, that before you commit to where they go, you want to kind of decide, I like this, the balance of the patterns and the colors, 1, 2, 3. So that's a great point. You want to first do a little bit of planning, and then if you choose, you can also choose to measure, but I like to do things usually by eye. And so I can orient my top and bottom and then put in the middle. Okay, so what I shared with you is we're going to use a bird stamp. It's called Sweet Songbirds. And I wanted to share this one with you tonight because right now during celebration, the coordinating punch is a free gift with a $50 purchase. It's normally over $19. Our punches are a great heavyweight material. And this one it's called a builder punch because it punches the bird and then also the wings and the beak, but it also looks like a little heart. You can do all kinds of things. My friend from Hawaii, Cindy, always makes people, and she uses this to make some really fun hair, like a little ponytails. So punches are not just to stamp the shape that's punch the stamp that's coordinated with it. They also can be used for punch art. So this is called Sweet Songbirds, and I'm in your kit, along with the envelope and the blue piece, there should be just a piece of white rectangle. And this is just so you have this as paper to stamp and cut or play with. You could cut squares and put the squares right onto the individual square shapes. Or what I'm going to do is stamp and punch out a bird. So this is a sweet songbird. I'm going to use some pretty, dimensional little stickers end up everywhere, don't they? So here's my bird. I'm going to stamp that down here. Okay, and then when I can line this up and punch, so I don't have to fussy cut it. I can just put it inside here and punch, and it will be ready to add to my project. There. So I also have some wings in that little beak. Okay. And I think this would be fun. On my first card, I put it on the green in the middle. This one, I'm going to change it up, I think, and put it up high. And I'll use dimensionals to adhere this so that it's got some nice movement and dimension. And we'll add that wing. So you can also use the punch with colored construction paper, colored cardstock, and not just the white. But tonight we'll do that, so I can do that quickly for you. I've got a little wing to add. Oh, but I forgot to add his eyes. The eyes are part of the stamp set. There are some bright, cheerful, open-eyed eyes, or some sweet, sleepy little eyes. And I do like the way they look for this bird. So I'm going to stamp see here. I'm going to use my black ink. I'm actually going to remove that wing so that this is a little more flat. This is a good lesson that we want to, that you always want to stamp first and then assemble. I didn't do that this time, so they might be a little fuzzy, but because now there's dimension, it's not a flat surface. I risked having a lot of blurriness there, but it worked out okay. So we'll move up. Let's take that wax paper away.
Do you want to talk
There
a
we
little bit about dimensionals? Because we have some new people.
Sure.
And,
Oh, terrific. Okay, great. So Stampin' Dimensionals are a foam sticker that's double-sided. And so they're little hexagon shapes. Sometimes we call them hexagons or honeycombs, but they are a spongy material. And what they do is just allow you to lift up objects on your card to give it a shadow. And so you'll see here the owl, he looks more like he's flying off the page a little bit rather than being glued flat. So most every month we use dimensionals. I don't always include them in the kit, but I love being able to share them with you, encourage you to explore with them because they just give a lot of lift to a project. They're also an adhesive, so they can help secure things to the paper. But in addition to that, they're giving you some lift. Now, let's see. This one I used the word "a little bird told me," and then "you've got something to celebrate." This also has words like "a little bird told me it's your special day." And then it has little notes. So you could say a little note of thanks. This is kind of a big note of thanks, isn't it? This card is kind of a jumbo size card. So I'm going to use the little bird told me. And this time, because there's so much color here, it wouldn't show up as well as it did on the lighter mango color. So I'm going to use some of my white paper and I'll stamp the image there. I'm going to do a little bird told me. So let's see, I've got my other blocks here. Let me get that ready. Okay, so this is Memento ink. And I'm going to, remember I said earlier we were using the cling foam or the red rubber stamps. This set is actually called photopolymer. And it is a clear stamp. And you'll see, I really enjoy these because I can see right through the stamp and see where I'm putting my image. And that just makes it easier for me to line things up straight. I'm going to cut this so that I'll have a little flag kind of. I'm going to flag the ends here so it's like a little banner. And I can put that here. So the bird's up on top. He's going to have a little sign here. This one I'll put flat with our Tombow multi-purpose glue. This is my favorite adhesive. It's very economical and it gives you a little wiggle room. You'll see how mine, if it's straight like that, I can still have a little time to straighten it. It's a little bit of wiggle room. And it also is very strong. So for 3-dimensional projects, it's going to really grip. But I use it on almost all of my paper crafting projects. A little bird told me. And then when you open up the card, it can say, how about we make this one a birthday one? So it'll say, it's your special day. And that could be any kind of a day. It wouldn't have to just be birthday, but let's do that. It's your special day. So, all right. This one we'll do again in the black. A little bird told me it's your special day. There we are. So the music notes I think are fun because the bird is sort of singing. Let's put some of those on here as well. Kind of like it's singing the happy birthday song. Okay. Now in your kit this time, you also have a string of stickers, of heart stickers, happy Valentine's Day heart stickers. And I thought that, wow, look at how these colors coordinate. Isn't that fun? So I'm going to put some heart stickers on here just to add a different kind of texture. They have a little bit of shine to them. And when people feel the card, they can feel the different smoothness of the sticker. My family, when I have my boys and my husband, when I have them critique my samples, kind of which one do you like better or whatever. They always favor the ones that have the sensory touch. And so I do enjoy having things that have different textures. So because this is a darker green color, I'm going to use this lighter lavender heart so that there's a strong contrast and it will show up nicely. And then because there's so much of this pretty purple, so I'm going to include this one. And then maybe one of the kind of orangey ones or this green. So again, I'm pulling in the color of the envelope, right? Let's do that. Put that one down here. So I have 3 hearts and they're just kind of dancing around. And so it just, again, adds a little bit more visual interest to this. Now, obviously, if you don't have the bird, you can do any number of things here. I featured owls on this one. You can have words on each thing. You can do initials of someone's, sort of, it could be a monogram card. You could use your heart stickers and not have any stamping, just use your heart stickers. So up to you how you work with the design. And again, remember, you can do the diagonal squares or the straight set squares. Now, the thing that's missing on here is a little bit of bling. So let's go ahead and add some of these pretty stones to the project. And we have plenty, so you can go ahead and put a whole bunch on there. I think I put 5 on my first one. I did sort of 2 and then 1 over here.
You're not going to do your triangle? Your famous
I know.
triangle?
This one, it's kind of like they spill down instead. You're right. Julie is referencing what I most often do with embellishments is make a triangle, and that just draws your eye across a project. Oh goodness, I don't think I even did it on our final project tonight. I did it a little bit on the Kindness Changes the World. So it has like 1, 2, 3. Sometimes people put them all together, 1, 2, 3. That looks pretty as well. In this case, I put 1, 2, 3, and it draws your visual interest across the project. Thank you, Julia. Great. So that's that card. That will fit very nicely into this big business-sized envelope. And it may need extra postage if you're I would recommend taking it to the post office, hand delivering it, or if you do put it in the mail, put some extra postage on there. Maybe you'll tuck in some candy or a love note or $1. We used to always get dollars in the mail from my grandparents at Valentine's Day. And then you've got your extra hearts, so you can embellish your envelope with these heart stickers. I love these. They look kind of like gems. So I hope that one was fun for you as well. We're going to move on to finish tonight with our third project. Let me put my inks away so I don't get too messy, although it's not a good day unless there's ink on your fingers, and I've been stamping, so I've got lots of ink today on my thumbs, especially. All right, our final project today is a lovely one that when we voted last month, that we got feedback from you about which designer series paper you loved the best that I showed you from our celebration offering. And most of you who responded picked this beautiful Dainty Flowers wildflower designer series paper. It's just so lovely. The colors are watercolored. The images are watercolored, excuse me, with really beautiful regal colors. And so the paper, when you first receive it, has this kind of texture marbly look to it. It's just how the paper is printed. It's a little hard to catch on camera, but it looks almost as if it's been like linen, or like it's been rubbed to give a little bit of almost paper towel texture or fabric texture. And so one of my demonstrator friends, Lisa Freeman, she altered the paper to make it more vintage. So you can see this sort of shabby chic version of the card has been altered with the ink. So I'm going to show you how to do this with an ink that's like a crumb cake or a light brown colored ink. But I do think it's lovely even without the ink. So you can use your supplies at home or just the things from the kits. You can make a lovely card. But if you do have this crumb cake ink, it's a lovely way to kind of antique it. Another way to do that is to tea stain your paper, which is actually what my friend Lisa did. And that's where you soak the paper in tea. And usually the longer you keep it in the tea, the deeper the colors will be, and they will lighten when they dry. But if you're game for experimenting, what you would do is just brew some tea and put it in a dish, a shallow dish, and then put your paper in there for it to absorb. You could also, this is going to shock some of you when I do it, but you can also crinkle your paper like this and wrinkle it up. And you're thinking, oh my golly, that's going to mess it up. But it's sort of a cool way to alter or distress your paper. And then just open it carefully because it is fragile and we don't want it to tear. We just want it to take on these wrinkles. Okay. And that's another way without ink to make your paper look more vintage. And you can also do that and then do the ink on it too. But I just wanted to show you, even though that's kind of shocking, that it's an easy way to add, especially if you're soaking it in the tea. This will really pick up those the curves and the creases. All right, so for ours tonight, I'm going to show you how to distress it with the ink. Let me find my other one that I didn't crinkle up yet. Let's see. Hold on just a moment. So I do believe I have another one ready for us. If not, I'll go ahead and stamp right onto that, but I thought I had my pile. I'm looking one more minute here. Oh. Okay, I've made several samples, so what's here on my table I must have used. That's okay. What I'm going to do is flatten this out so that it's pretty flat again, and I can do the same kind of distressing. You would normally do that before you you would stamp the ink on there before you would crinkle it up, but that's okay. Yeah, this happens each time. There's usually something that I can't find that I wish to have with me, but that's okay. We can improvise, and that's good learning too. One more look here. Yes, okay. Thanks for your patience. I found my supply of extra pieces. Here's one that I had started with some sponging. So you can see just the sort of stepping up here. This is the way it came from the envelope. And this is how I began to distress it. And let me show you how I do that. I take my sponge and the ink. This is called crumb cake. It's a lovely light brown color. And my sponge, I'm going to just dip it in, tap it onto the ink pad. And then I call this flicking because it makes, listen to the sound. Flick, flick, flick. And I'm just going along the edges to make, it's going to make it quite dark at the edge and then kind of shade in towards the wreath of flowers. Now, if any of you go ahead and do the tea staining, I'd love to hear about it and see your results. So please feel free to reach out to me or to post photos and comments within the Facebook and at the Baldwinsville Public Library Facebook page. It would be so much fun to see what you're doing. And here you can see I'm just rough. There's no rules. I'm just kind of roughing it up. Let me show you what it looks like if I do that on the one that I've already wrinkled. You can see how the sponge, the ink is going to settle more where those raised crinkly parts are. And that's a really cool effect as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I like to use different stamps for texture. But first I'm going to do the center of my greeting. I'm going to get that in place before I do too much other distressing. And this is a stamp from a stamp set called Flowers of Friendship. It has some very nice greetings. Many thanks from all of us. Little card, big thanks. Thank you for everything. And then my favorite, life is better with friends like you. So this one, I'm going to stamp with the Blackberry Bliss ink. And this is an ink spot. When you come to the library on Friday for our Let's Kit Together class each month, you go home with a kit that has an ink spot. So it's a full one of these little spots in the color that coordinates with your project. And so I wanted to show you that as well. And they're really easy to use. And that's a rich Blackberry Bliss. And I'm going to stamp that into the center of the wreath here. Down and up. Okay, very good. Now, in your little kit, I also included a rectangle that matches this paper before it gets distressed here. You can see it's that white, and you can really see a difference here once we start distressing. And that's because you might have a greeting that fits that doesn't really fit well in the center, or that you would choose to kind of put at the edge of your card, maybe have it all of this done and then have this pop up with your greeting. Maybe have it all of this done and then have this pop up. Not sure why I'm getting the echo. Is that a problem, Julia? Do you hear an
Oh,
echo?
Sorry, that was my fault.
Oh, okay.
I've
No
got it
worries.
fixed. I've got it
Thank you.
fixed.
Very good. No worries. I just thought, oh dear, we've been doing well. So this is so that you have some options if you choose to not stamp directly into your card. You can have it, you can use this as a stamped piece. Also on the back is some really pretty green floral, sort of fern-like pieces. And so you may want to add them as an accent. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more texture to my, with the crumb cake. And so I want to use, this is an old favorite. This is a stamp set called Gorgeous Grunge. It's very old. It's when we still had our wood mount stamps, and it makes these great splatter marks. And we do have some in our current line, we do have some similar texture stamps, but this is one of my favorites. So I wanted to show you how I'm going to continue to add. You can see here how there's sort of these lines across and splatters and some floral pieces. So I'm going to just take that, and I don't want it to be really dark. So what I have to remember is to stamp off and then stamp on my project. So this is called generation stamping. And I can even stamp again a third time and get some of the ink, and a fourth time to get some of the ink, because there's a lot of color. And I don't want it to compete with my greeting. So I have to remember to stamp off, and that's called generation stamping. So we have second, third, and fourth generation stamping on this card, where we've lightened the color. Okay. And somewhere is my little flower piece. I'm going to go ahead and add this splotch. Now the splotchy one, I really have to stamp off a couple of times, because you'll see that that's quite heavy ink. And I want it to not compete with the greeting. I just want it to add as if there was a little tea stain spilled on there, or some coffee dripped onto there, right? To make it have that texture vintage feel. And you see that? So again, it's just adding visual interest. It's kind of adding layers, even though I'm not building things up with dimensionals. It's adding depth this way.
Wow.
Do you like that one? I'm glad you do. Okay, so now we want to work with these little pieces that we have to further embellish. Oh, and here's my flower. This is a great one. I don't want to forget this one. You can see one of these things is not like the other. It's kind of subtle, but I really love these flowers. This tree right here, there's 3 that kind of stand out together, and a couple over here. I think it just adds that other layer of femininity to it. And I think little bees or other little insects would be fun, other floral images. There's all kinds of things you could add, but let's put a little bit of those flowers. I'm going to stamp off, because even though I love the flowers, I don't want them to compete too much with the other images here. There we are. And then I'll do it again without re-inking a couple times. There. So each one's going to come out different. It's like tie-dyeing. It'd be very hard to make a vintage piece the same, exactly the same. And that's what's fun about it, to have that unique quality. Let's line these up here. I hope, can you see them on the screen? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Because I want to show you a few different ways that you can embellish. Again, we don't want to add too much weight to this card. It already has a lot of visual interest, but I love adding these different textures. Now on this card, I did not tear the paper. I just put the strip, I made a little banner, swallowtail end here, a little triangle at the end, to make it like a banner shape. On this one, I tore the paper. So I want to show you that. This, I think, is very effective with any vintage shabby chic kind of paper projects. So to tear the paper, I'm going to put it, this is quite narrow, but I'm going to put it between my thumbs, and then I'm going to walk my thumbs down the paper as I tear, just walking them down. And that's keeping it pretty consistent here, but with a nice little bit of wave. I can go ahead also and tear more quickly, And that's going to tend to get, if I don't walk it down, then I don't have the same control. And so I'm going to come up with these almost fabric like ribbon like pieces. That's always very attractive. It is also attractive. So you can practice and decide what kind of tear you like. I do really like this here. It almost looks like a fabric ribbon. And then I'm also going to go ahead, and you saw how I did the banners, but this card, I really am going for more of a mixed media. So I want to have that texture of tearing. If I walk my thumbs down, then I keep my tear pretty controlled. You can also wrinkle it up.
So you're sharing all your terrible ideas tonight.
That's the best pun ever.
No, it's a terrible pun.
It's a terrible pun. That's great, Julia. So if you crumple it all up, and then it almost becomes like leather, you can tear that apart and have two very textured pieces of kind of like paper ribbon. And there's the one that I tore that way. So now that I have it, these little, it almost looks like mulberry paper, right? It's very gentle. So I can kind of create a little nest here of those papers. I do like it where there's green and then the blackberry bliss and then the green again. That's kind of a nice look. And then to make my ribbon special knot, it's very simple. You'll take your ribbon, instead of tying a bow, we're going to fold that in half. And then where the loop is, I'm just going to tie a knot. So take it through and leave enough so that I've got a little open loop here. I like that, and I'll pull it tightly. Okay. And I just think that's a really gentle ribbon. It's got some nice shine to it now, the texture. And I have to decide how to glue down those papers, but you can see that effect. Now you could put it this way, might look pretty too, kind of coming down the card. You get to decide, right? But let's start by, let's finish up the card by just adding to the card base. And you'll notice that this alone is really lovely. But once we add the mossy meadow as a mat, in my opinion, it really kind of grounds it more and highlights all of those green tones that are in the watercolor. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Tombow glue to adhere these layers. And I do hope you like those terrible ideas tonight. And have fun playing with your paper scraps. And as you see, all you need is a little strip. So when I prep the kits for you, the paper starts at 8.5 by 11. It's this plus this is how it starts, right? A full 8.5 inches by 11 inches. And then I score it at 5.5. And then I cut it. So now I have the two halves of my card base. And to make this mossy meadow layer, that also starts at 8.5 by 11. So I have to trim it down. And that leaves me with these 1/2-inch strips, long, wonderful pieces of cardstock. And at first thought, you might think, oh, that those are just scrap and you don't need to keep them. And believe me, you can keep you have to be your own judge about when it's time to pass things on to others, but or to the recycling. But it's if you have a little shoe box or a little Tupperware box that you can keep your bits and pieces in. Sometimes you have just little bits of ribbon that are left and all you needed was a few inches. So it's fun to have a little treasure box of those supplies. I do really like it coming down the side like this. And it's always fun to experiment so that I have more than one layout to share with you. But I also want to incorporate this cool fabric-y green. I wonder, I could almost tie it around here. I'm not sure. The simplicity of this is quite lovely, isn't it? Yeah, I think I'll leave that, but I'll show you. I want to be sure you see how I did the tearing. And then in this case, how I didn't alter it with ink. I just kept it very clean. And Stampin' Up! Already did that wonderful faux texture for me by the way the paper was watercolored. So it's really simple and lovely. And then this was a simple way to include the paper. But I encourage you to play around. It's just paper. So just rip it, tear it, crinkle it, and enjoy that distressing. So let's pull back our 3 projects. Oh, and one more quick look at the envelope for this one. I've shared with you before that there's no naked envelopes. You always want to give a clue about what's inside your envelope. And so to do the flap, to be a flapper, like my friend Linda Talbot used to say, is you tuck the flap in so that the rest of the envelope is masked or covered so that it's not going to get the ink on it. And then you can sponge and stamp just the flap, and that isolates so the artwork stays just on that flap. And I think it's very effective, and didn't add any more cost to the project, just a little bit of the time, but it didn't involve any other consumable supplies. So it's a great way. Not everybody's going to keep the envelope, but what fun it will be for them to receive that in the mail. Okay, so we'll pull these in. And if you have any questions, please add them to the comments for us. There's that. And we'll put our pretty pink one in here too. I've had fun being with you tonight. Thanks for your patience with technology and timing. And I hope that if you have questions, you'll post them for us so we can get back to you with any questions, with any responses. And I'll look forward to seeing some of you tomorrow at our library Let's Kit Together. And otherwise, see you back with Zoom in March. And remember, we'll be doing something with a stencil that will come in your kit. So if you don't have a brayer, that's okay. You could use a spritzer or your watercolor brush or a cotton ball or a sponge. Have some kind of tool that you can apply with your ink. Use to apply your ink. Great. Thanks so much, Julia. It's great to be together tonight. I appreciate everyone.
Yeah, thanks to those who joined us, and thanks to those who will be watching later. That looks really great.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Have a great month, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yep. Happy February, everybody.
Bye-bye.